911, what's your emergency?
Yeah, that morning, of course it wasn't the same as any other morning. When I got the call, it was a call from ADT. I was laying in bed, I was still halfway asleep and missed the call, and then my mother called me. She asked me if I got, if I answered the call from ADT and all that different kind of stuff, and she said it was a motion inside the warehouse. From there, I got up, hit the road. I don't even remember the drive to the warehouse. I mean, it seemed like everything was moving so fast for me. When I pulled up, it was like a scene in a movie. I mean, talking about all the ambulance, the fire department, the police department, and it was like, please God, tell me these people aren't here for something that's going on at my building.
When I first got the call, I thought I was dreaming, and so I asked Jason to repeat what he had said. And I heard him say again, the warehouse is on fire. And so I felt like an extreme sense of urgency, so I just got up out of the bed, put my clothes on, and just ran out of the house. And when I got there, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is real. It's not a dream.
So the police had me to sit on the curb and wait, and it was the hardest situation, sitting there watching all the things that you work for and your dreams and everything within this building just go up in flames. And so while I was sitting there, I was like, how did this start? Like, what happened? Did we leave something plugged up or something like that? So I looked at the video and boom, here's this guy walking up to the truck, and I see the truck moving and all the different kind of stuff from the cameras, and it looked like a scene from a movie. And it was the feeling that came over me was I felt angry. I also felt a little afraid, because I'm like, the way he walked up to our buildings and the truck, you can tell he was focused, you can tell he knew what he was coming to do, and it's an eye-opener, seeing this happen before your eyes. Because at this time, when I looked at my phone, the police department and all that kind of stuff had started leaving, but it was still the fire department or whatever there. So then when I went to them with the video, then at that point, it turned into a crime scene. the police came back, and I will say the police department, the DeSoto Police Department, and fire department really were there, and I mean, they made it to the fire super fast. I mean, Lancaster Fire Department was there, Cedar Hill Fire Department, DeSoto Fire Department, like, and I'm like, how did all these people make it before I ever made it down here? And so the reaction time, I mean, it could have been way worse than what it was, but the reaction time, I'll commend them on that. It was they did a great job. But going back to the story, so after, you know, giving this information to the police and all the different kind of stuff, then that's when we started looking deeper into the videos and everything else. And you see this man walking up to the building across from us, and he's over there for the longest trying to get into their building. Then he comes over to our building, looks into our building, tries to get into our building. And you see him walk up with kerosene, gasoline, whatever it was. And it was like, at that moment, you knew whether it was for us or whether it was for the building across from us. You knew he knew what he came to do, and it was understood that he had a plan, you know, when he came up the whole time. That was a little terrifying, because it's like, you think in your mind, like, you start thinking, did we do anything to anybody? You start thinking about, you know, everybody that works for you and everything else, and like, you know, everything goes through your mind. It was a long day, a long process. I mean, from 5 a.m. that morning probably to 1 or 2 a.m. that next morning we were there. And, you know, my thing through this process, like, it was hard for me because I had to still lead a team and be able to do business, even on top of trying to reconstruct what we had. And I'm talking about, you know, I mean, we had to move. Our landlord made us move all the gear out the place. They made us get it all clean before we ever brought it back in. I mean, we're talking about a lot of money just to clean gear. Like, it was crazy. And so, you know, during those times, you want people to have some compassion and everything for you, but it's not always that way. You have to grind. You have to realize that, you know, you have to get it done. You have to make it work. And so from that, like, I commend my team, my assistant, like, my mother was there. Like, it was a support system that I had during this time, because during that time, like, it was a lot of moments where I broke down, walking into your building, seeing all of these pieces of gear. Just, we're talking about drum sets that were full drum sets, and then when you walked off into the building, there's nothing but the metal pieces left. And for me, it was like, it was hard because, like I said, I own the business by myself. So you know every dime and every penny. When you're sitting there looking at these pieces, you're just calculating in your head, like, how am I going to make this happen?
I immediately felt overwhelmed with anxiety. I was disappointed. I was angry. I had so many emotions because I wondered why someone would do this, why someone would try to bring down another human, and with so much intentionality, because it was a process. And after watching the video, I was really enraged. I became even more upset and wanted like nothing more than for that person to be hurt or have the same feelings as I was feeling at that time, because it was just wrong all the way around.
Yes, I was very surprised when I received the call from Jason. For one thing, I has a wood shop next to him, and I thought, oh, if there's a fire, things are going to be really ablaze. Of course, once I got there, I saw that the fire had not reached over into my shop, but obviously it was a mess where Jason's facility is and all of the equipment that he had. The fire department had to cut into the lock on my side because there was a lot of smoke damage over there, and they wanted to create their fans and clear out some of the smoke. But things were pretty hectic that day because there was a significant amount of damage. Not so much in my side, but for sure over in Jason's side. And of course the police, fire department was there for the most part all day long, trying to, of course, get things straightened out and try to figure out exactly what happened that day and how the fire started and all of that. Yeah, when I first got there and then got over onto my side and saw that there was no damage, went over to Sound Design Studio side and saw what they were faced with there. It was a mess. The equipment was, you could tell the fire really did a lot of damage to the equipment, to that part of the building also, and then the fact that the door was pushed in by the truck, you know, things were a pretty big mess. And of course it took, gosh, I don't know, a month or 2 months before everything was back in order. It took that long at least to do the repairs of the building, to clear everything out, and for Jason to get his old damaged equipment out and be back in operation. So it was a significant blow for his business at that point.
So the process of rebuilding was arduous, complicated, demanding, because while rebuilding, we had to continue to move forward with working and ensuring that we continue to have events and different production opportunities to keep the business going. And so while compiling everything that either the insurance agents needed or the fire marshals needed or the police or whoever, that documentation had to be compiled and submitted, but we also had to continue to deliver a level of service to our clients that matched all of our prior performances. So while complicated, it was an opportunity for us to demonstrate to not only ourselves but to other people that despite what you may be encountering, if you continue to focus, heavily rely on each other and be there to support, you can get through anything. And I think that was demonstrated during this time.
I feel like through this process though, it made us stronger as a team. It made us realize that we need each other more than we need each other more than what we think. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's a physical thing of being there during shows or events, or just being an emotional support from everybody on the team. During this time, during the fire and the rebuild process, it made me appreciate what I had in the company, the friendships, where we were as a company and the space that we were in. I also realized that for me, it made me appreciate where I was as a leader at that time too. Because, you know, when I think about it, a lot of people would have quit. A lot of people would have gave up, and just sat back and been like, you know what, somebody did this to me, did that, and that's not where I was. I was like, we have to make this work. We have to rebuild and not react to the situation, but adjust to the situation. And so for me at that point in time, like, it put me in a better space mentally, because I felt like I became a little bit more comfortable with myself and how I led my team.